A person's past relationships leave behind subtle psychological traces that are almost impossible to conceal. I'm about to reveal 7 hidden signs that quietly expose her true relationship history, patterns so understated that even she may be unaware of them. Once you know these, you'll start seeing the truth in every woman you meet. Before I walk you through these 7 signs, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments. What city are you watching from? It's incredible to see how far our community reaches, and I love connecting with men who are serious about understanding these truths. These patterns are recognizable if you know what to look for. And trust me, you need to stay until the very end because sign number 4 is something that will absolutely blow your mind. It's the most manipulative behavior pattern I've ever witnessed, and it's happening right under your nose without you even realizing it. If you skip ahead, you'll miss the one sign that could save you from years of emotional manipulation. Sign number 1, she's too comfortable with closeness too soon. The first sign is something most men actually mistake for a positive trait. She seems incredibly confident about intimate matters. She talks about physical relationships casually, without the natural shyness or gradual warming up that typically characterizes women who haven't had extensive experience. This isn't about being romantically liberated or confident in her body. This is about the complete absence of natural emotional barriers that should exist early in a relationship. People who have had many short-term relationships can sometimes lose the habit of creating emotional boundaries. Because those lines have been crossed so often, they're harder to maintain. She discusses intimate details with a clinical detachment that feels off. She knows too much about male psychology in romantic situations. She's overly familiar with approaches and dynamics that suggest extensive experience. Most concerning, she treats physical closeness as a casual topic rather than something sacred or emotionally significant. This comfort level extends beyond just talking. She moves toward physical closeness without the emotional investment that typically accompanies it. There's no build-up, no emotional tension, no sense that this means something special to her. It's mechanical, practiced, routine. The psychological reality is that when closeness loses its emotional weight through repetition, it can be difficult to recover that sense of specialness. Each subsequent relationship becomes less emotionally significant because the physical aspect has been separated from emotional bonding. Most men think this confidence is attractive, but it's actually revealing something much deeper about her past. It's showing you that intimacy has become commonplace, rather than meaningful in her life. You'll notice she doesn't blush, doesn't show natural feminine modesty, doesn't have moments of vulnerability around physical closeness. These responses aren't outdated or repressive. They're natural emotional reactions that protect the bonding process. When they're absent, it signals that the bonding mechanism itself has been damaged through overuse. Sign number 2, emotional walls that never come down. The second sign is perhaps the most telling. She maintains emotional distance, even in what should be intimate moments. People with a long history of short-term relationships can develop emotional defense mechanisms that make genuine connection harder. She can be physically present, engaging in conversation, even participating in relationship activities, but there's always a part of her that remains unreachable. It's as if she's performing intimacy rather than feeling it. This emotional unavailability isn't shyness or taking time to open up. It's a fundamental inability to let someone in completely. This shows up in how she talks about feelings. Everything remains surface level. She doesn't share deep fears, childhood experiences that shaped her, or vulnerabilities that would create real emotional intimacy. When pressed for deeper connection, she deflects with humor, changes the subject, or gives responses that sound meaningful but reveal nothing real. She struggles with emotional reciprocity. You share something meaningful about yourself, and her response is appropriate but shallow. She can't match your emotional depth because she's learned to keep those depths protected. This creates a one-sided emotional dynamic where you're always giving more than you're receiving, If you've ever felt like you're dating someone who's emotionally unavailable, even when she's physically present, this might be why. Repeated cycles of starting and ending relationships can make it harder to build deep, lasting bonds. The emotional walls extend to how she processes relationship conflicts. Instead of working through problems together, she tends to either shut down completely or end the relationship. She hasn't developed the emotional tools for deep relationship maintenance because her pattern has been to move on rather than work through difficulties. This emotional distance isn't temporary or something that will improve with time and trust. It's a fundamental shift in how she approaches emotional connection, created through repeated cycles of bonding and separation that have taught her that emotional investment leads to pain. Sign number 3, an unusual number of male friends. The third sign involves her social circle and how she manages relationships with men. Some people maintain unusually large networks of acquaintances, including former romantic partners or people who are clearly interested in more than friendship. She receives constant messages from different men. Her phone buzzes with attention from multiple male sources throughout the day. When you ask about these men, she dismisses them as just friends, but the frequency and tone of contact suggest otherwise. These aren't casual friendships, they're emotional and attention-based connections. Many of these friends are men she's previously been involved with. She maintains contact with former partners in a way that suggests she keeps her options open. This isn't about being mature and friendly with exes. It's about maintaining a network of male validation and potential backup options. She struggles to maintain genuine friendships with women. Her social circle is predominantly male, not because she has masculine interests, but because she's more comfortable with male attention and validation. Female friendships require emotional depth and reciprocity that she may struggle to provide. The psychological pattern here is validation seeking through male attention. Some people can develop a strong dependence on outside approval and attention. They need constant confirmation of their desirability from multiple sources because they've learned to equate male attention with self-worth. And here's what most men don't realize. These friendships are often her backup plans. She maintains emotional and communication connections with multiple men so that if your relationship ends, she has immediate options available. This isn't always a conscious plan. It can be a subconscious safety net shaped by past experiences. She has difficulty setting clear boundaries with male attention. Men who are obviously interested in her romantically are allowed to remain in her orbit, receiving mixed signals and encouragement. She enjoys the attention too much to cut off sources of validation, even when it's inappropriate for someone in a committed relationship. This pattern reveals an inability to fully commit emotionally to one person. She needs multiple streams of male attention to feel secure, which means she can't invest completely in building something deep with you. Her emotional energy is distributed across many relationships rather than concentrated in one meaningful connection. Sign number 4, she uses closeness as currency. The fourth sign is perhaps the most manipulative. She has learned to use physical closeness as a tool to get what she wants, rather than as an expression of genuine connection and affection. Some people develop a more transactional view of closeness, where it becomes a means to an end rather than pure connection. They've learned that closeness can be used to gain advantages, resolve conflicts, or manipulate outcomes. This turns something that should be sacred into a calculated strategy. She might withdraw physical affection when she's upset, not because she's not in the mood, but because she's learned it gets results. Conversely, she might initiate closeness when she wants something, a favor, a purchase, forgiveness for something she's done. The timing is too convenient to be coincidental. There's a calculating quality to how she approaches physical relationships. She seems to know exactly when to advance and when to pull back to maintain your interest and investment. This isn't simply natural intuition. It can be learned behavior shaped by many past interactions. She uses her femininity as power in ways that feel uncomfortable. Everything becomes about leveraging physical attraction for emotional or material gain. She's learned that her appeal is her most powerful tool for getting what she wants from men, so she weaponizes it. The psychological reality is that when closeness becomes a tool instead of connection, authentic bonding becomes impossible. She can't separate the strategic use of physical affection from genuine emotional expression because the two have become intertwined through repeated use. She struggles with spontaneous, non-strategic intimacy. Everything feels calculated because it often is. She's lost the ability to simply express affection without considering what she might gain from it. This makes authentic moments of connection rare and precious, but also makes you question whether any intimate moment is genuine. This pattern creates a relationship dynamic where physical intimacy becomes a negotiation, rather than a natural expression of love and attraction. You begin to feel like you're being managed rather than loved, which ultimately destroys trust and emotional safety. Sign number 5, she knows exactly how to play men. The 5th sign is her sophisticated understanding of male psychology and her ability to manipulate masculine emotions with surgical precision. Some people develop an almost professional-level understanding of how to influence and manage relationships. She knows exactly what to say to make you feel special, masculine, and needed. But this knowledge feels too practiced, too perfect. Her compliments hit specific psychological targets that suggest she's learned through experience what works on different types of men. It doesn't feel authentic, it feels strategic. She has an unusual understanding of male insecurities and knows how to exploit them. She can make you feel incredible about yourself one moment and subtly undermine your confidence the next, keeping you emotionally off balance and seeking her validation. This emotional manipulation is sophisticated and learned. Her ability to read male behavior and respond appropriately seems supernatural, but it's actually just experience. She's been through these patterns with enough men that she can predict reactions and adjust her approach accordingly. What seems like perfect compatibility is often just perfect manipulation. She uses feminine energy as a weapon rather than a gift. Everything about how she presents herself, her vulnerability, her admiration, her need for protection, feels performed rather than authentic. She's learned that certain feminine behaviors trigger specific masculine responses. Someone with the ability to influence others so effectively has learned these skills somewhere, often through varied relationship experiences. Multiple relationships have provided her with a psychological laboratory where she's tested different approaches and refined her techniques for managing masculine emotions. She has specific strategies for different phases of relationships: how to create initial attraction, how to maintain interest, how to handle conflicts, how to regain control when it slips. These strategies work because they're tested, but they prevent authentic relationship development. This level of manipulation creates relationships that feel exciting but hollow. You're responding to carefully crafted stimuli rather than authentic feminine energy. The connection feels intense, but lacks genuine depth because it's based on psychological manipulation rather than real compatibility. Sign number 6, no shame about her past. The 6th sign is her complete lack of discomfort or regret when talking about her romantic history. While society tells us shame is negative, a healthy amount of selectivity and emotional protection around intimate experiences is actually psychologically normal and healthy. She talks openly about previous partners and experiences without any natural modesty or discretion. This isn't romantic liberation. It's the absence of natural emotional boundaries that typically protect intimate experiences from becoming casual conversation topics. She shows no understanding of why her past might concern a potential long-term partner. When questions about her history arise, she becomes defensive and aggressive, turning the conversation into an attack on your right to have preferences about your partner's background. There's often pride rather than privacy about the number of her previous partners. She might not give exact numbers, but she makes it clear that she's experienced and sees this as a positive rather than something that might give pause to a man considering a serious relationship. She frames any concern about her past as insecurity, jealousy, or outdated thinking on your part. This defensive strategy prevents honest conversation about how past experiences might affect your potential relationship. She can't acknowledge legitimate concerns because she doesn't see them as legitimate. She may not fully understand why exclusivity or commitment is important if she hasn't experienced relationships where emotional and physical connection were reserved for one partner. She literally doesn't comprehend what you might be looking for in a committed relationship. This creates a fundamental incompatibility in values and relationship goals. You're looking for something exclusive and special, while she's operating from a framework where intimate experiences are casual and interchangeable. These worldviews cannot be reconciled. Sign number 7, a pattern of short relationships. The 7th and final sign is perhaps the most telling. She may have a history of mostly short-term relationships without many long-term commitments or deep partnerships. Her relationship history reads like a series of brief, intense connections, followed by quick endings. She might describe these as mutual decisions or natural conclusions. But the pattern reveals an inability to sustain long-term emotional investment in one person. She has explanations for why each previous relationship ended, but the explanations always center on external factors or incompatibilities rather than acknowledging any patterns in her own behavior. She sees herself as the victim of circumstances rather than a participant in creating relationship outcomes. There's often overlap between her relationships, with new connections beginning before previous ones have completely ended. This isn't coincidence. It's a pattern of emotional and physical transition that prevents the natural healing and growth that should occur between relationships.